This is a cup from the dollar store. Cost $1. And it is one of the vectors, one of the angles to explore around depression, around trauma, around anger. And I want to talk about why and encourage you to give this a shot and measure the results. As with anything, you have an hypothesis, you test the hypothesis, and then you see if it's worth $1 in a few minutes of your time. So what I'm going to do in a moment is take this outside and hurl this into the creek bed, which is not a pristine creek bed or anything where anyone walks. It's filled with old bits of concrete and all that. As I do so, I'm going to put all of my hurt, anger, feelings of insignificance, and into this cup. I'm going to listen to it smash, and $1 will be well spent. So what's involved with here? One of the things is that emotions are biological, meaning there is not a feeling that you can feel that doesn't have a connection in the body. And there's generally two ways to work with energy. One is form, the other is working with the energy directly. So for example, you could think a thought, which is kind of a form, to shift energy, or you can just try to feel better. You just say, I feel, it's usually we work at it through, even if it's language is the form. We work with feminine energy, which is the essence, the emotion, by changing the structure that induces the feminine energy into a certain shape. And so, in this case, if you change your feelings, your body will change. If you change your body, your feelings will change. And so, feeling tight, feeling invisible, feeling helpless, feeling the feelings that we feel when we feel invisible and significance, tightness, smallness, not expanded, not breathing deeply. Our body is loyally taking on the shape of the thoughts that are producing the sensations and feelings of worthlessness, of pain, of all that. Now, so changing our body with doing something dynamic, whether it's jogging or throwing something or hitting something, cutters, people cut themselves. It's like doing some action, etc., takes us into our body. And one of the things that happens with depression is which is a common co-infection of PTSD, because it won't go away. The PTSD, in a psychologically, physiologically illiterate cult, you can't cure PTSD very, very easily, so you feel helpless, which is depressing. And so now you've got depression as well as helplessness as well as PTSD. Depression has a lot to do with rules. You can't do that. Oh my goodness, you can't. You can't. You can't eat with your fingers. You can't. What? Oh my goodness. This whole fear-based paranoia thing about, and it's all reinforcing the underlying fear that if you don't fit into a certain way, you won't belong, you won't feel secure, you'll die, and that nobody's going to help you because we don't help people. We help people who behave the right way, who have the right money and the right clothes. We help clothes, we help protocols, and we help dollar bills. We don't actually help the human beings wearing them. And so when you throw a cup or something, you're breaking the rules. Oh my gosh, that's a valuable mug. Some of you are no doubt, that's a nice looking mug. It is. That's why I bought it. And a creek bed? What if salmon were swimming up there, and what if a child cut their fingers? Oh my goodness. So there's all these endless rules that basically say there's no room for you to have feelings. There's no room for you to express your feelings. That's why you're feeling them, because it's weeks, months, hours later, and nobody made time to understand this and that. So you're still dealing alone with your depression, your grief, etc. because a video is showing you more attention than your spouse or something like that. And this is an absurd sociopathic state, but that's what many of us are in, is an absurd sociopathic state. And so we're going to hurl this mug, which is going to change the physiological state. Number one. Number two, it's going to say that I'm more important than a fucking creek bed filled with concrete. It's not even nicely poured concrete. It's broken up riprap. I'm more important than that. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't want to disturb the concrete. I'll just commit suicide, you know. And so there's a constant message with abused children who have giants for parents who are abusing them, and basically saying that the giant, is more important than the child. And then you get up and the culture says that the cult is more important than the individual. You can't do that. Why? It's good for me. Well, it doesn't matter if it's good. You can't do that. And so you have the cult saying, our way of doing things is more important than what you need, and the fact that you've got trauma and are getting sick and whatever, doesn't matter. We're more important than you. And so it counteracts the message. I'm more important than a fucking creek bed, than a fucked up cult that can't, where my neighbors can't be bothered to learn what's going on, do this and that. No, I'm more important than that. Now that's a healing message, because the disease is the disease, the belief in valuelessness, which is enacted by the abuser. So we're breaking rules, and we're asserting importance, and we're changing physiological state for $1. That is an incredible return on investment. And so you can go to a therapist who will sometimes intelligently and sometimes with complete gobbledygook, just say, tell me all your traumatic events and pay me a few $100s, and you leave feeling terrible. Well, you can throw 200 plates for the same price and maybe feel great. Maybe make a mosaic out of all the thrown plates. So, I'm going to hurl this in the creek bed. I've also hurled these out of my front door. There's a little concrete wall. I have to sweep afterwards if I do that there. We are a cult that's afraid of emotions, and so you have to educate people around you what you're doing. I have emotion. Oh my goodness. And I want to release it. Really? You want to express your feelings? My goodness. And then, and I'm angry and I'm frustrated and I feel helpless around this. Oh my gosh. And then, and I'm going to express this all in about 30 seconds. You're welcome to hide downstairs or whatever if this is too much for you or whatever. But I'm going to make a loud sound, and I'm going to hurl this plate here. And you do not need to do anything. You don't need to call the police. You don't need to act as if the world has come to an end because someone has had feelings. That's what I'm going to do. Do you need anything? We often have to take care of other people in an emotionally illiterate cult because it might bring up their own feelings which they don't know how to deal with. Do you need anything? Okay. Are you ready? Don't talk to me. Don't interrupt. Don't say anything. I'm going to let off steam. Throw a few plates. Then I'll walk around, let it off, and when I'm ready, about 5 minutes or so, I'll reconnect with you. And so that's my protocol if someone's around. If not, you have to be aware of neighbors. Oh my gosh, what's that crazy person doing? How dare he have feelings in an enraging dynamic? Why doesn't he feel happy in an enraging dynamic? Endless symptoms of emotional illiteracy. So that's what I'm going to do, and that's what I want to invite you to do. Find a place where you can hurl things. Go to the dollar store, or get something that you don't particularly like. It's like you hated this gift. Why are they pretending you're this person when you're obviously this person? They just don't want to admit it. You've said you're gay. They've decided that it would look nice it would feel better for the family to keep pretending that you're chauvinistically masculine, and so they keep giving you things that have nothing to do with you, etc., because that makes them feel better, and calling it a gift when really it's an insult. Take the fuckers, burn them, bash them up, and then get rid of them. Just think it through, because this is the trouble. This is the vicious circle that our cult has us in around emotions. It suppresses, denies, and calls all emotions inappropriate, and all expressions of emotion equally inappropriate, indefinitely. And then, of course, they build up and explode, and then they say, well, see, that's why we don't express emotions around here. It's no different than saying all breathing is inappropriate. You really hold that to the very end, then you say, see, that's why breathing is inappropriate. We don't breathe around here because we don't want to have people panting and clawing to live and stuff. We keep things cool and collected. Well, the same is true as with emotions. If you integrate them healthily and people acknowledge what's going on, they don't build up in the first place. But since we are a toxic cult that builds up toxic levels of emotions, then they explode, like balloons popping rather than just letting out a little of air, letting in like a membrane. So this is a release. And when you feel the need to release, it's better to release than pop the membrane and make a big mess in the chaos of that. So that's the general theory behind it. And I would enjoy hearing what does or doesn't work for you, and whether your paranoia about looking bad, etc., wins out with all of that. No grown adult would ever do that. Or whether your compassion for the deep levels of pain and grief and sadness that so many of us carry on behalf of our abusers, but also on behalf of our cult. Our cult requests us to carry the pain that it produces. Meaning, if you take 100 million people from any country around the world and you put them through American protocols of the average person, you will create toxic amounts of pain and suffering right and left. Doesn't matter about the person, it's the protocol. The cult produces these levels of feelings and then shames people rather than saying, gee, we're a dumb cult, we don't know what to do with all these feelings we've produced. It just tells people, well, you shouldn't have them. And if you do, have them in private and don't let anyone know that you have them, because we don't know what we're doing. And so that's, that's the second wave of abuse. And then the third wave is punishing you when it turns out that you actually have emotions and did not hide them effectively. So off we go to throw a cup. I hope you'll join me.